Givi, Givi, I'll probably refer to both through this video. Hi, Tony here, welcome back. And actually I haven't done a video from the cave for a while, so it's nice to be back in here. Top boxes. Now, I'm not a massive fan of them, but there's no denying how practical they can be. And I was looking for something that I could put onto my Tiger, predominantly for me, for carrying camera gear around. So I didn't have the restriction of looking for a box that was big enough to take a helmet. I was looking for a top box that is relatively slimline, is still useful for packing stuff in, for using for weekend trips, a bit of touring, or just running errands and going to the shops. So in my search around the internet, I came across a lot of options, but the one that ticked all the boxes for me in terms of size, fitment and look was this. Now obviously there's a lot of options out there for towel bags, but because I was using this predominantly for transporting my camera gear around when I'm out shooting images or shooting film, I needed the security of an aluminium top box. What's great about this top box is it can also be used as a side pannier. Because it's quite slim, it's not going to stick out too far, and it actually makes this a very flexible system. So let's have a quick look at the box and its construction, and then we can move on to the fitment of it. Now you've got a couple of options. There's a flat aluminium rack and there's also a black plastic rack, both of which are the mono key solutions. I opted for the flat aluminium rack because that still gives me plenty of options to be able to put a towel bag or something on there if I don't particularly want to use this, and it's also very low profile and looks pretty good on the bike when there's nothing attached to it. This box is available in the black that I chose and also the bare aluminium. All of the fasteners, rivets and fixings on it are stainless steel. There's a very secure lock on the case itself, and there is a plastic dust cover that covers the key as well to stop that filling up with crud. 30 litres of capacity, which is quite a bit of space, and there's plenty of accessories that will go with this as well. So you can, for example, get a cargo net that sits in the hooks in the top of the lid, which is handy for stuff that you need quick access to. There's also a soft bag that fits inside this, so if you want to pack all your stuff in your bag and just lift it out and take it away. In terms of what you can get in there, well, if you've got a 15-inch laptop case, that will go in with no problems. And as I said before, I was looking for something to transport my camera gear around. Now I've got a Manfrotto Manhattan camera rucksack, and that's got a padded compartment in the center which is completely removable. That fits exactly into this case, so I can just pull it out of the camera bag, drop it into the case. I don't have to unpack all of my camera gear and repack it into something different. That works really well for me. There's also the option, which is something that I'll look at, is buying some of the foam that you can cut to shape. There are 4 plastic mounting points on the top of the case, so if you want to strap an extra bag to it, you can. And also within the range there is a plastic rack which will fit to those if you want to put something a little bit more substantial on top of the top box. Now there is a plastic seal around the top here. Givi say this is water resistant as opposed to being waterproof. Now I haven't had the opportunity to try this out in bad weather, so I would think that it's only if the box is completely submerged or you've got hours and hours of torrential rain that it might find its way in. Of course, if you've got the liner bag inside this, that's going to give you that waterproof option. But with most aluminium top boxes, you're going to get a pretty high level of water resistance. The latch mechanism seems pretty robust, although I have noticed that it's taken a couple of big pushes to get this to latch into place on the monokey base. It may just be that this is new and it hasn't kind of worked its way in, but once it's snapped on, it's really secure, no movement whatsoever. The box also comes with 2 keys, and the maximum load capacity is shown as 10 kilograms, which is actually quite a lot. And to be honest, you don't want to be putting too much weight high up because that's going to start affecting the handling of the bike. So let's have a quick look at the fitting. It's pretty straightforward. Everything is in the kit that you need, but compatibility with other manufacturers' side carriers is something you need to consider depending on what rack you choose to fit. First things first, according to the instructions, you need to drill 4 holes in the top cover using a 17mm drill bit, which is pretty meaty. It's not apparent where they need to go. In the instructions it shows the hole, but there's no measurements. So I decided to take that top cover off, just undoing these 4 8mm bolts, and see if there was any other indications. And lo and behold, when I turned it over, there's 4 marks from the injection moulding of this, and they line up exactly where those holes need to be drilled. So they're already pre-marked and they're already pre-punched for you. So starting with a smaller drill and getting progressively bigger up to the 17mm, I drilled those holes out and gave them a little bit of a clean up with a file. Now we've got the holes drilled in the top. When it comes to fitting these brackets, it's really straightforward on the instructions. You have one of these for each side. It mounts onto this bottom bolt here, and this onto the top here, and this allows you to screw that top in. Now, a word of warning, depending on what side carriers you've got, you could have a problem. I've got SW Motec carriers on here, and there's a spacer on the outside for the mounting bracket and the bolt that goes through there. Now the bolt that's on there from that fitting kit isn't long enough, and the bolt that comes in the kit from Givi isn't long enough either. So there's the bracket that would sit on the outside with the spacer on the outside. To fit this plate, you need to put another spacer on this end and a bolt on the end of that, so I had to go and source another bolt. So if you have the SW Motec Pro side carriers fitted, you will need to source an M8 90mm bolt to replace the existing one, just to give it enough length to be able to get this spacer and the nut on the end to hold the bottom of that bracket in. But it is straightforward. You've got a replacement bolt to go in here. I'll get those 2 bits done, and then it's a case of fitting the spacers, the plastic bit on top, and then the mount above that. Nice and simple. Once these are back in, make sure they're done up loosely, because the next job is to sit this plastic mount back on top as it would do. Line up these spacers in the holes that you drilled, and then you've got bolts that go down that hold this onto that. So just keep it loose until you can put all of those together, and make sure everything's lined up before you snug everything up nice and tight. Once you're sure you've got this all lined up and you've test fitted these screws and fitted them onto the bracket to make sure it all fits, you can put the original bolts back in to hold the plastic cover in place, tighten everything else up underneath, and then it's just a case of using these bolts to secure that top plate on, and you're ready to snap on your top box. There you have it, a really good looking, well constructed top box, which to be honest you'd expect from a company like Givi. For me, it does everything I need. It's not too big and bulky. I can get everything I need in it. My camera gear fits in it perfectly, but it's also flexible enough to use for touring, for weekends away, or just running those errands. So if you are looking for a top box, I could definitely recommend having a look at their range. And if, like me, you want something small and neat and not too in your face, then the Trekker Dolomiti DLM30 might be the one for you. I hope you found that useful. If you've got any comments or questions, you know where to put them down below. And all that leaves me to say is thanks for watching. Until next time, take care, ride safe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.